full moons are a time of culmination. They are the peak before things begin to wane, before we need to release, before things need to come to an end, before we may need to start letting go of something in our life. This Sagittarius full moon is happening on May 31st, which also happens to be my birthday. So this full moon's chart is going to be my solar return chart, and it's quite a crazy chart. As a side note, if you didn't know, every single year we have a new birthday chart, and that is the chart of our birthday, but of course it will change every year, and looking at our solar return chart or our birthday chart can tell us what kind of energy we are personally going to be embodying or experiencing or stepping into within this next year of our life. So for today's Sagittarius full moon analysis, of course, we are going to start with Western astrology and then go into Chinese astrology, and in my signature style as well, which is simple and easy to understand as well as applicable to your life. So if you don't want to miss out on more clear and concise astrological updates, then make sure you are subscribed. Let's start off with Western astrology. If you have your sun, moon, or rising in Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, or Pisces, this full moon is personally going to be affecting you. If you're an Aquarius rising, you'll also be affected. And if you have any personal planets within 6 degrees to 12 degrees in Sagittarius or Gemini, then those planets will be affected too. So the inner planets are Sun, Moon, Rising, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. You also want to look at the house that 9 degrees Sagittarius is in, because that is the area of life where your intuition will be really strong around this full moon, where you will have a mental awakening and where something is reaching a peak and it's being ready to be released. So for example, if it is in your first house, this can have something to do with your identity and who you see yourself as or how you speak to yourself. If it's in your second house, this could be something around abundance mindset, something around finances or your values, etc. I actually write insights for all 12 houses for each new and full moon throughout the year. All you have to do is grab my 2026 astrology e-calendar, which I will link below, sync it directly into your Google Calendar, and you will have all of these insights for the rest of the year. Now, the Sagittarius and Gemini axis that this full moon falls on requires us to look at scale, the micro and the macro. Gemini is all about the details. It is the micro. It's about learning. Whereas Sagittarius is about the macro. It's about big picture thinking, philosophy, teaching. And what they have in common is that their minds never stop. So off the bat, you might feel like your mind is just spinning. There's a lot of things happening. It's very, very mental. It's very cerebral in terms of the energy that we're experiencing right now. Now, Gemini is, again, micro. It is about what is around us. If we learn something, we're happy to just keep it to ourselves. Whereas Sagittarius wants to teach. It wants to share with a much larger audience. So with this moon being in Sagittarius, this is asking us to release old beliefs, release the details that have been affecting us or influencing us on our path that are no longer aligned with who we are. Sagittarius is also the sign that searches for truth, capital T truth, or personal truth. This is the sign of adventure. This is the sign of philosophy. This is the sign of finding your way through the world and also adapting and adjusting as you go. This is the sign of optimism. No matter what you go through, how do we distill the lessons from the trials and tribulations that we go through in life to then move us forward and inform our path forward? So this full moon really is highlighting the beliefs that we carry, the details, and how they are influencing the path that we are on. We have 3 planets in Gemini right now, so this is a stellium. We have Uranus, the Sun, and Mercury. And Gemini energy is, again, in the mind. So this is very cerebral. It is bringing us into the details, and we can also feel a little bit scattered right now, a little bit all over the place, because Gemini tends to get a little bit squirrely. They fixate on one thing, and then they get bored, and then they jump to something else. So we have an undercurrent of this energy here. Now, we also have Uranus sitting right next to the sun. And Uranus brings in the unexpected. So around this full moon, things can awaken, or you might experience events that are truly unexpected. And this also brings a lighter energy to this full moon. For the past couple of months, our lunations have felt more heavy and more grounding, also because Chiron has been involved in a lot of them. But with this full moon, things start feeling more exciting, more lighter, more dynamic. On another note, we are in fire season in Chinese astrology as well, and we are a couple of days out from moving into the month of the horse, which is the peak of fire. So we are really riding this kind of crescendo, and so things are getting a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more dynamic, which is why, again, our grounding is going to be so important, and finding your own balance as we move through this peak. Now, with that being said, we have an interesting configuration called a cradle. So we have the moon in Sagittarius over to the sun in Gemini, down to Neptune in Aries, and over to Pluto in Aquarius, which forms this kind of trapezium shape. This is a cradle. So with Pluto and Neptune also being active in the mix for this full moon, we are getting the watery help and support that can ground us. This is emotional depth. This is helping us to stay grounded so that we don't get overwhelmed, or we don't get carried away by all of this lighter, faster cerebral energy here. Now, just like the Taurus new moon 2 weeks ago, we have Pluto in a very harmonious trine with the sun, and this time it's also sextiling the moon. So this is again directing us into our own power. Where is our power coming from? Am I the authority in my life? Or have I actually been giving my power away? Have I been walking a path that has been informed by other people's expectations instead of staying really true to my authentic self and my authentic desires? Pluto gives us that power and that strength and that extra boost we need to be able to adapt with the unexpected, with change, and also trust in our journey and our path. It is that extra boost, that extra well of our own power that when we get pushed to the brink, we have to sink into, we have to awaken. Now, Neptune in Aries is trining the moon and sextiling the sun. So again, in a very harmonious aspect with both the moon and the sun. And Neptune brings in more of this trust in timing, trust in the universe, trust in the way that the best journeys that we have always had have always been the unplanned and the unexpected, the ones where we have just felt an undeniable pull and we don't know how it's going to work out, we don't know what it's going to look like, but we have just trusted, we have just taken that step forward. So Neptune is bringing in that energy, but Saturn, sitting right next to Neptune, is also telling us to be discerning, not to just jump off every single cliff because of, or just for the joy of it. Right? Saturn is there also trining the moon and sextiling the sun. Even though it's not in the cradle formation, it's still being activated by this full moon. So it's grounding, yet also motivated. This is the planet that's telling us, hey, we can dream, we can have these big feelings that we want to act on, we can have these hits of inspiration and intuition, but maybe we don't have to follow through on all of them all at the same time, all right now. Maybe we can write them down, we can take the time we need to really sort through our thoughts and our ideas and our dreams, and we can make a plan where we are methodically and consistently working towards what it is that we want. So we can be excited, but we don't need to rush ahead, because a lot of the time when we do that, the path that we're walking on hasn't been solidified and can very easily crumble. So we're balancing that spark of insight, creativity, intuition with sustainability, with method, with planning, so that we can build something solid as our authentic self. So if you have been feeling this kind of lighter, more excited energy around this full moon, let me know in the comments, and we're going to move on to the Chinese astrology analysis now. So we are in the year of the fire horse, we're still in the month of the water snake, and this full moon is happening for everyone on a wood snake day. I already have a whole video explaining the energy of this year, so check that out. And we are in the same water snake month as the Taurus new moon. So again, this is very much about that connection with our inner flame, our inner spark, our higher self, our intuition. But like I also mentioned 2 weeks ago, yin fire can be really chaotic and unpredictable. And when it comes to our sense of connection with our inner self or our higher self, we don't just get bestowed with that. It is an amazing thing to feel that connection and have that connection. But first, we must face and we must confront everything that is blocking that connection, that stands in the way of us having that connection and building that connection and living in that connection. So if this month in particular has felt a bit more chaotic or a bit more confronting or a bit more intense, we are going to be moving into even more intensity because the horse month next month is really the peak of the fire season. So it is really important that you are working with this full moon to be facing and to be working through the things that are blocking you or the things that you feel limited by. And that's also why the water that's in the stem of this month and also the activation of Pluto, Neptune, and Saturn in the Western chart are really, really supportive here because they can help us to ground. They can help us to find our own balance when we slow down, when we anchor into our emotional depth, when we anchor into who we are, when we go outside and we connect with nature and we sit on grass and we touch some grass. Even something like that is going to help so much if you are feeling this kind of chaotic energy and you're struggling to really ground yourself. So this really is a month to understand what wants to be expressed from my inner world. Let's move on to the analysis of the day. So our day pillar is the wood snake, and this is the same day pillar for everyone. So this means that there are only 2 animals that are very, very activated for this full moon, the pig and the snake. This is a double activation because the snake is in both the month branch and also the day branch. So if you have a pig or a snake in your year branch, then this will activate your social circle and your friend groups, something that needs to be released, a new mindset you need to adopt. If you have a pig or a snake in your month branch, then this has something to do with your career or your business or your relationship with your parents. If it's in your day branch, this is personal to you. This is a personal belief you might have about yourself or your own personal path. This can also be your relationship, so your love life as well as your inner self. And finally, if it is in your day branch, then this has to do with your children, your investments, and your psyche. Let's start off with the snake in the branch. This is another count of fire. So we have the fire horse, which is fire again. We have the snake being the element that's in season, which is fire. And now we have another count of fire in the day branch. So this is a full moon that is very fire heavy. And fire in Western and Chinese astrology overlap in its expression. It is a very forceful element. It is rising, it is burning away. So fire is depleting the wood that is in the day stem that sits on top of it, as well as the water that sits on top of the snake in the month pillar. So again, the energy around this full moon is so focused on expression, intuition, all the things that we discussed in the month analysis, what is blocking our intuition, what is standing in the way of our authenticity and the authentic path that we want to walk on. Now, wood in the day stem feeds the fire, and this reflects the learning aspect of the Gemini and Sag axis, the opposition here. So we are being shown what feeds our self-expression, what do we base our sense of self on, and what might need to change, how might that need to be shifted in some way. We're also being shown the information that we consume and take in and how that then influences the beliefs we have about ourselves, about relationships, about the world, about whatever it might be, and also how that influences the direction that we're moving on, the path that we're walking. And again, coming back to, is this actually aligned with who I am authentically and the path that I want to walk? Now, like I said earlier, we are a couple of days away from entering the month of the horse. This is the peak of the fire season. So again, if this month has already felt pretty chaotic to you, you have to figure that stuff out as soon as possible, because again, it's only going to get more intense from here. And I'm not saying that to scare you, but we also have to be very real. The world is changing so fast. We have no idea what is on the horizon a month away, let alone a week away, or even tomorrow. We have no idea what society is going to look like in the next couple of years. So the best thing that we can do right now is to stay true to ourselves, to understand, who am I authentically? What do I stand for? What are my values? How do I want to be living an authentic life and being of service to myself and to my loved ones, and aligning with that? That is the best thing that we can do right now. So let's now move on to how this full moon is affecting you and what it is awakening for you based on your self element or your day master. And this is going to be the element that sits as the top character in your day pillar. That is your self element. So if that is wood, then this full moon activates yourself, your identity, and your expression. So your values, who you are authentically, and what you put out in the world, how you're seen, what do you create out in the world? What are you expressing? Is that truly coming from you? And this is amplified by the Gemini Sagittarius axis. What information are you taking in? And is it genuinely feeding your authentic self-expression? Or is it actually pulling you away from your own voice? Have you been maybe trying to fit in with other voices in your realm? Have you been adopting someone else's voice instead of connecting with your own voice? So come back to yourself so your expression can actually flow. And if you are feeling blocked or you're feeling stuck in your creativity or your output, then you know something is not really aligning there. So with so much pulling you into output, you might be feeling actually compelled to do things, or you might be feeling like you're stretched really thin because work needs you and your family needs you and whoever else needs you. And there's so much on your plate and you just have to get it done. That is why replenishing your rest and your self-care is so important for you right now. If your self-element is fire, then this full moon activates yourself and also your resources. Who are you? How do you show up? What do you stand for? And remember that yin fire is more internal. It's intuition. It's the question of what is your light connected to? What is feeding your light? Because the wood feeding your fire activates that resource, the ideas that you have, the information you take in, what you learn, what supports you. And the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius also shows you what is there to support and fuel you, and what do you need to discern when it comes to everything that you take in. What are you choosing that informs who you are? So come back to what genuinely lights you up inside. If your self-element is earth, then this full moon activates your career, your sense of authority, and your resources. Something needs to be released or restructured here, specifically when it comes to your career. This could be a role that you carry or you play, a business dynamic, how you've been showing up professionally. But where does your power come from? Are you showing up professionally or in your own life where you are actually in control of your own power? Or is there an external source of power that has been dictating your moves and your actions and what it is that you do? Fire activates your support. So this is intuition, inner knowing, creative energy. What are you intuitively sensing about your direction right now? Follow that thread. You don't have to do a whole 180 if it's something completely different. Like I said, Saturn is there telling us that we need to be methodical in our approach. So we are just tuning into what it is that we are feeling called to. And redefining success. This is a really important theme for this full moon. Are you truly aligned with the path that will bring you the success that you want personally? Or is a success that you're chasing belonging to other people's expectations of what your job or your life should look like? If your self element is metal, then this full moon is asking you to look honestly at what you have been growing towards. How have you been measuring your own worth or productivity or success? Are you actually in control of your path? Are you in an empowered position? Are you acting as the authority in your own life? Because what is available for you with this full moon is a big shift in your beliefs about what you're worth. And when that shifts, you will unlock a shift in what you're able to build or manifest in the world as well. So be really honest with yourself about what it is that you are actually wanting to build or to manifest, and what stories have you been telling yourself about money or career or worth. Finally, if your self element is in water, then what are you putting out in the world? Reflect on that. Reflect on your creative output and whether that is actually translating into what it is that you want to manifest. As a very quick example, let's say that you are a small business and you have been posting on social media every single day, trying to be consistent, but you haven't really seen the results. It's felt really stuck. You want to come back, start with your voice and your ideas and your creative output. Think about what direction it is that you want to grow in, and is your expression actually reflected in the way that you are growing? So you want to think about, what are the stories that I have been telling myself about the direction that I'm going in, and what might need to be changed or refined there? How is my expression perhaps not fully reflective or not fully aligned with what it is that I truly want to say? This is a very intuitive time for you. Drop in to your inner self and feel what wants to be birthed from you. A lot of the time, the things that we feel scared to express because they feel so raw and so authentic are the things that are true to our soul, are the things that are going to get the biggest response from people. So that is our Chinese astrology analysis. If you have a snake or a pig in your 4 pillars, are you feeling this activation? Let me know in the comments what that feels like, what area of life is being activated for you, and happy full moon.